Hey, it's Lauren with Bargain Bead Box, and I'm going to be playing around with the September Mystic Moonrise collection. So I've kind of been thinking about making kind of like a choker, I guess. I don't really have any short necklaces that I really love right now, so I'm going to make myself one. So today from the box, we are using the Matte Indigo glass rounds, the faceted agate strand, and I wanted to call out there are some variations in these strands. It's totally fine if yours doesn't look like mine. In fact, I'm challenging myself and using the slightly greener strand. And if you've got the browner strand, it'll be perfect. Don't worry. Either way. I'm going to be using our crystal star cut rounds, one of these filigree links, the spacer beads, Labradorite, the smaller strand, a toggle clasp, possibly our clamshell bead tips, and one of the Lapis teardrops. The only things that I'm using today that are not in the box are some basic findings. I'm going to try out one of these Find 2520 from beadboxbargains.com ice pick bales, see how that works out. I've got some wire guardians, a jump ring mix, it's ring 124, some crimp beads, Find 2120 in antique copper, some simple round spacer beads, these are Space 1571, and I'm using a 0.38 millimeter gold tone wire just because I don't have any of the brown coppery stuff in stock. You can use whatever you have. I do recommend going with the thinner sizes versus the thicker for this because we're working with some delicate beads. There's not going to be a whole ton of weight on this strand to keep it in line and keep it from kinking. So I'm using the smaller diameter that I have on hand. Alrighty. The one other thing that I'm thinking I may end up using is some crimp covers. So I've grabbed Find 2615. I am infamously bad at these, so we'll see how it goes. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is make my little focal, and I want this little Lapis teardrop to dangle from the center of this link. So to do that, this is the only kind of bail I had on hand. I didn't feel like running out anywhere. So I'm just going to snip this little top bit off because I do not need it. Get my little wire cutters. I don't think it bends. I think it is welded there. So I'm just going to snip it down at the bottom. There we go. Pop it off. Alright, and now I've got my simple little ice pick bail. And I'm just going to open this up very carefully and hold it with this pair of pliers. And this is where, if you have nylon coated pliers and you like using those, you could do something like that. My wrists hate them. I am just going to open it outward a little bit carefully. And now I'm going to stick the pin inside. No, I might need to open a little wider inside the hole there. And this is going to be a little big, but it's going to be okay. I think it's going to work. There we are. Open those jaws. Stick that in there. And then just clamp it back down. I'm going to use my fingers first as far as I can. All right. I'll squeeze that here. If you've got a smaller bail, that's probably ideal. But I'm going to work with what I have on hand, and I don't hate that. It's going to make like a pretty little drop. Squeeze that as far shut as it will go. There we go. All right, now I'm just going to swing this jump ring open and attach it to the middle of this link. Kind of right in here where that little swirly is. It's one of the fun things about these links. There's so many things you can do with them. So I'm going to take it, and I'm just going to put it right through that little center oval bit there. And there we have it. Okay, so now I'm going to make two beaded segments, one on either side here. And I'm going to try attaching them with wire guardians because I think that will be neatest. So let me grab those And I'm going to cut some wire. It doesn't have to be super long because I am making like a choker length piece. So I'm thinking probably like 12 inches is plenty. Probably too long, but better too much than too little. All right. Smooth that out there. All right, and now I am going to get my crimp bead and my wire guardian. So there's those crimp beads. That is way more than I needed. And a couple wire guardians. Again, I'm very generous with my pours today. Okay. Just catapulted that one. There we go. So crimp bead goes on. And now we string through one side of the wire guardian and then down through the other side. And now before I put this back through the crimp bead, I'm going to slide on the side of the link there. So now I'm going to put it back through the crimp bead. Maybe. If it'll cooperate. There we are. Just like that. I'm going to pull it really tight. I'm going to get my crimping pliers. I'm going to be using the inner notch first, which kind of smushes the crimp into a C shape. Alright, before I do that, I'm going to pull it very tight so the wire does not protrude past the edge of the wire guardian. Alright, so I've folded it into a C, and now, or I've smushed it into a C, and now I'm going to fold that C in half with the outer notch. And we'll see how we did, how nice it looks. That looks pretty even. I don't think I'm going to worry about a crimp cover there. If you want to, you certainly can, but I am just going to go ahead and snip this edge off, and I'll tell you a secret. I don't always snip right down to the base because I don't want a little pokey end. So instead what I do is I cut it mostly off, and then I just put some spacer beads right over it. Or just start beading right over it. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and start with my crystals. There, we will see how that looks. Okay, so I've got these crystal star cut beads. They are so sparkly. I love them. And I am gonna just go ahead and maybe I'll do a little spacer bead first. And I'm just gonna start stringing a star bead. And now I'm going to push them down and make sure they go over and hide that extra end. There we go. Now you can't even see it. And that crimp bead does look pretty neat. I don't think I need a crimp cover there. That is why I love the two-step crimp pliers. They do just such a great job of hiding things like that. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to need my fancy spacer beads, which I hid from myself, apparently. All the way at the bottom, naturally. Here we go. And I'm going to go ahead and get out some of my 6mm rounds as well. Apologize, I usually do this before I start. I am not that organized today. Here we go. Ooh, it's going to be pretty. Just love these colors together, the deep blue and the sparkly brown. Okay, so I'm going to go crystal, then a spacer, another crystal, then a spacer. I'm going to repeat that 3 times, or rather I'm going to do 3 crystals, and then I'm going to do a spacer followed by a blue glass bead. So 1 more crystal, then a spacer, and a blue glass bead. And now I'm just going to go back into, I apologize, it's a little bit of a mess. Spacer, crystal, spacer, and then a crystal. Again, we're going to do this a total of 3 crystals, and then 1 more dark blue bead. And then I think I'm going to go to a more delicate pattern. So let's see here. Yeah, I do like that. I need to adjust this a little more to get it to hang straight. All right. All right, I'm gonna get out some smaller beads and we'll do that. Okay, so I've kind of cleaned up my mat here and I pulled out the smaller beads because I want to do a bit more of a delicate hedge here. And with my agate strand, I did go ahead and pull out the more aqua toned beads. They are gorgeous. I'll use them for a different project, but for today, I'm gonna really be emphasizing these darker tones. So I'm gonna start by doing a spacer bead, one of the fancy ones from the box, and then one of my little spacer rounds. I'm also gonna clip this end off because it's annoying me. Be gone. There we are. All right, and now I'm gonna continue sort of the pattern of doing 3 and then 1 different one, but this time the 1 different one's gonna be smaller. So we'll start with 3 of these agate beads, and I'm gonna try to stagger the colors, put a nice dark blue one in the middle, maybe do a more green-brown one after that. There we go. And now I'm going to do a little spacer round in a Labradorite, a little faceted Labradorite, and then another spacer round. And I'm going to repeat that pattern probably 4 more times. So we're just going to be doing 3 of these little agate beads. I love the mix of colors in these. And again, every strand is unique. They're all going to be a little bit different. That's okay. And that's going to make your necklace unique. And then after that, I'm going to do a round. And then I've got to shake my wrist out sometimes after those tiny beads. A little Labradorite round. And then another round spacer. So there we go. And we'll just continue that. Again, I want to make a choker piece, so it's not going to be very long. But I do love these colors together. It's going to be so sparkly and fun. And I typically like to use the clamshell bead tips, like the ones we included with the box, for ending a strand. But this particular end point, I just feel like having a jump ring here would cause more twisting. So we're going to use the wire guardian instead. All right, 3 more little agate rounds, which I may or may not have to fish off the floor. These like to roll. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm going to do 5 or 6 repetitions. I don't know, we'll see how it looks. We're going to basically just be duplicating this then on the other side of the piece. I love the browns in these agate rounds. They're so pretty, they look great with the copper. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'll do a light blue now. Then these tiny Labradorite, they have so much sparkle. And look at the flash in that tiny one. It's so pretty. The fastening on them is so nice. All right. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm going to do 6 total pattern repetitions. We'll see how much length that gives us, but I'm thinking it'll be about right. Because yeah, I really don't want this to be a terribly long piece. All right. So Labradorite, little round spacer. Yeah, that looks about like 7.5-ish inches. Just purely eyeballing, maybe a little more. It looks plenty long for our purposes. So I am going to use the clamshell to finish this end because I find it much easier to do wire guardians when I can slip that edge into another bead. I don't like pokey ends on my jewelry. They really bother me. So I like the clamshell tips because they cover everything up very neatly. Oh, I already had crimp beads out. Oh well. Now I have lots of crimp beads out. Okay, what did I do with those? There they are. Just gonna take a couple of these. Got the right amount this time. We only need 2. And when I'm doing this end, when I'm finishing a piece, I like to open my clamshell tip all the way just so I can get that crimp bead up close to it. Just makes it much easier to crimp. And another thing I like to do is tuck the wire end back around and through the crimp bead. It just gives it more to grab onto and reduces breakage. All right, and when you are tightening a tiger tail piece, you want it to be tight enough that you don't have a ton of obvious empty wire, but loose enough that you can bend the piece and the beads aren't going to grind up against each other. So it's a delicate balance. Sometimes I do it better than others. That looks about right. And since we're never going to see this one again, I'm just going to give it a really good squish with my heavy duty pliers here and chain nose. Get it really squished. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little more, just for good measure. Alright, and now that it's holding still, I will try to squish it just a little bit with my crimping pliers too. Now we're going to trim off that end there. And then we just fold that bead tip back up over the crimp. And it looks good. So now we've got our nice little professional looking end. And all we've got to do is attach the clasp, which I will do with a little jump ring. Probably, that one's a little big. I don't know, that might be the exact same size I just grabbed and dismissed, but make it work. Oh, there are some smaller sizes still in the bottom of this bag. I want around 4mm. These look pretty good. Yeah, I'll try this. If it's too small for me to easily work with, I will get a different size. Okay, now I'm going to grab my clasp pack here. I'm going to use the toggle that we sent with the box. But you can use whatever kind of clasp you like, of course. Just going to grab that. Swing it open with my little ring here. Let's see, I like to have the T-bar on the right. So yeah, this is going to be ultimately the right side of my piece. So I will do the bar of the crimp on this side. So I'm just going to try to stick this through. Here we go, the loop there, the loop on my clasp, and then we'll close it back up. And you do want to close it as tightly as you can because this clamshell loop is pretty thin. Alright, that looks good though. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Okay, now all we have to do is repeat this process on the other side of the piece. Okay, so I'm going to start by cutting some more wire. And again, we don't need a whole ton. Just about 12 inches. Give myself enough room to work easily. Or maybe more than 12 inches. It's close. Okay. And again, I'm going to start by using a crimp bead. This tiger tail is giving me problems. Maybe I should straighten it up a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to do the wire guardian again. We're going to go up through the first hole, back down through the second. These just look very professional and finished. They make everything look a lot more copper colored too. And they have the added benefit of protecting your wire from any sharp edges. All right, so we're going to go through that other side of the piece. And then back through our crimp bead. And again, I'm going to try to pull this nice and tight and give it a nice clean crimp. We'll see if I can do that. All right, so we're going to go C-shape with the interior slot and then bend that C-shape in half like that. That's actually pretty neat. I really like these little crimp beads. They are easy to work with and they seem to hold pretty well. All right, going to snip that off, and now we'll start beading. So I'm going to start with a 3mm, followed by a crystal. So we've got our spacer, we've got our little bit of sparkle there, and we're going to slide those over that tail. There we go, to hide it. And I usually try to make it go into 2 beads because then it is less likely to pop out. If you just make it tiny and put it in 1 bead, if you've got any play at all, the tail can pop back out and then it gets itchy and annoying, and I do not like that. So, all right, here we are doing the crystal and then spacer, crystal, spacer, crystal, and then we'll do a spacer and a glass round. All right, and this is going to be such a fun and sparkly choker. I'm going to repeat that one more time. All right, there we go. I love a star cut shape. It just brings so much extra sparkle. It makes me happy. Okay. And now we're going to do a spacer and a glass round, and then another disc spacer, followed by a round spacer. And now we're going to go back into the more delicate portion. I'm going to dump myself out a few more of these spacer round beads. I think I'm going to need a few more. Okay, there we go. This is an incredibly simple piece, but I really just wanted to make something delicate. I'll make something like big and Victorian-ish later. I want to use that Larvikite, those 10mm Lapis rounds. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with those. But I really loved the delicate beads in this box. I just felt like playing with those today. So that is what we are doing. I'm trying to mix up the colors in this little trio of beads. Not you. You are crimp beads, not spacers. Making a mess. There we are. All right, spacer. And then a little tiny Labradorite, followed by another spacer. And we are going to repeat this a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So 5 more. That's not the hugest deal if your sides don't match, so if you get done with 5 and you're like, well, I think that's long enough for me. No one's ever going to know. It's going to be in the back. So make it how you want it made. Alright, so I'm going to take that ring off because it is impacting my mobility there. Okay. I will say though, that little jump ring is one of my favorite tools. It helps me do jump rings and reduces the strain on my wrists, so I love it. Speaking of wrist strain, playing with these teeny tiny beads, man, wears me out, but I love them so much. Alright, so another Labradorite. I will do something really celestial themed probably next time. I really want to play with those moons. The small beads were speaking to me today. Let's see. I think I'll do this bead next. I'm kind of avoiding those greenish tones, although they would be pretty too. It doesn't really matter. Whichever ones you like. As my daughter would say, just follow your heart. Okay. We are getting close now. And I'm thinking maybe I'll make a stacked bracelet or something. A stack of bracelets to go with this. I just feel like that would really complete the 90s homage. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more after this. I count to keep myself honest because I do not always keep track of things like super well in my brain. Okay. 1. I'll use this dark blue one. It's very pretty. Kind of a shame it's going to be in the back and no one's going to see it. It's alright. I see it. And then finally, spacer bead, Labradorite, and another spacer bead. Okay. So now we're going to finish up this strand by, again, opening up that clamshell, then stringing it on through the middle hole, following it with a crimp bead, dropping that crimp bead and putting that crimp bead back on. It's a necessary part of my process. And then we're going to loop around and back through the crimp bead. Again, just gives it a little extra to hold on to. Makes it less likely it's going to just pop off that strand. Alright, now I'm going to evaluate how much give I've left in the string. I think that's pretty good. And I'm just gonna squish the mess out of it first. Then I'll give it another good pinch with my crimping pliers. I'm not even going to try to fold that in half because it's got the cord coming out of it and I don't want to break the cord. So I'm just going to trim it off. No one's ever going to see how ugly it is. And we'll hide it away inside that clamshell. Perfect. Looks pretty good. Now all we have to do is add the clasp end. Okay, let's grab another little jump ring and my jump ring ring, and we'll open this up. And I like a toggle clasp, but if you prefer a lobster claw or a magnet clasp or whatever, you can always mix that up. And there we have it. It's just such a simple, elegant piece. I think it's going to be very cute as a choker. This makes me want to make like a headpiece, like a medieval type circlet thing. That would be gorgeous. And I may have to play around with that. Never done that before. I don't know. I like this necklace. I think it'll be really cute as a choker. And I do think that the crimps worked out nicely. I don't think I need any kind of crimp cover there. But if you do, you can always add it. All right, well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I am really excited to play around some more with the items in this box. And I just love how sparkly this is. And you've got the delicate mixture of colors and sizes. I think it's going to be really pretty on. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I would love to see what you create with your box. Please feel free to join us at the Bargain Bead Box Creative Corner Facebook group if you haven't already. You can share photos of your creations there, see what others are making, get lots of inspiration and box updates. And yeah, thank you so much to our members who make this all possible. If you are not a member, we do still have a few September boxes left available at our website for $32.99. If you are a member, then you received this box for $23.99 with free shipping. So if you would like to become a member and start with October's beads, we would love for you to join us at bargainbeadbox.com. We have a limited number of slots available for October, so make sure to sign up if you're interested in getting that. And thanks again for being here, and happy beading.